There was a book that was written about Three Square, and in the building of Three Squares, I was all work. That was all. Not a lot of social time, mental wellness time. And I got breast cancer about halfway through.
Hmm.
And I knew it was my body's way of saying,
Okay. Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. We're coming to you the day after Easter. I trust all of you had a wonderful Easter with your friends and family and just had some downtime and hopefully some good food. We did. We had too much, but that's to be expected for a holiday. And I also want to thank all of you for continuing to subscribe to this channel. We're growing our subscribership on a regular basis. So thank you for subscribing. If you're new to the channel and you like the content, please hit the subscribe button and the like button that you see on the screen, and please share this content. And also, thank you very much for your support for my writing. My last book, Omega Deception, got to be an Amazon bestseller in a couple of categories, so that was gratifying, and I'm working on another one coming up. So enough with I hate doing it, but you got to do, kind of the promo. But anyway, the real reason we're here is a very dear friend and someone that I've been wanting to get on the podcast for a long time. Julie Murray graciously has lent her time and efforts to be here. Uh, Julie is a CEO and principal at Moonridge Group, which is basically philanthropy advisors. But she's much more than that. She's a social entrepreneur. She's a leader. She cares deeply about the community here in Las Vegas. I got to know Julie a few years ago as I was introduced to the Nevada Corporate Giving Council, which Julie leads quite effectively. But her hand is in a lot of different places in Las Vegas. And so, Julie, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us.
Mike, you are a hero, and I've been so looking forward to this podcast. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, as I like to do with the majority of my guests, I kind of want to put things in context. And uh, if you could first just talk about, in general, what is your current role and position or positions, and what are the gist of what you're actually working on nowadays?
Mike, and I am a believer in to whom much is given, much is expected. And as you and I are sitting here with our health and our happiness, so you'll see
Hmm.
that although I have Moonridge Group and the Moonridge Foundation, those are both important to me. Moonridge Group is, as you mentioned, is a philanthropy consulting firm, and the Moonridge Foundation is a donor advice fund. It's a nonprofit.
Hmm.
And those are the two primary passions in my life. But I'm so involved in many other things in the community because I feel so lucky and feel that, well, I can have a place on this earth that giving back is important. So you and I have crossed over on the Super Bowl committee on so many
Hmm.
places because you and I believe in engaging in the community.
Yep. Amen to that. So obviously, leadership is a journey, and we're still on our journeys, I believe. And tell us a little bit about your background. So, were you from the Las Vegas Valley to begin with?
Mike, I am one of the few rare lifelong Las Vegans and
Wow.
love this community. And I remember when the eBay family, the Omidyars, did a study somewhere around '04, '05, '06. They were looking at the community and they found that we have a can-do spirit
Hmm.
here,
Hmm.
unlike any place else. And so I've called Las Vegas home all of my life, with the
Wow.
exception of going away for college or moving to Reno for a few years, 2 years. Love this place. We have such passionate people who care about community, who are connected. You and Janice are well loved here, and we feel that when we go out into the community. At Easter was yesterday, and felt such a sense of community as I was out yesterday at so many different events. So I've called Las Vegas home for all of my life, and greatly enjoy being able to make a difference here.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. We moved here in 2019 from the Seattle area, and while every city has its, its positive aspects, we've never seen a city as giving as we have here. I mean, just people are just willing to get engaged, uh, whether they give monetarily or whether they just give of time. There's a sense of caring that you don't find, and I agree with you, in a whole lot of places. Um,
Absolutely. I remember there was a campaign years ago and it was called Las Vegas Has Heart. And you
okay,
saw it all over, and it meant that we engage, like you said, in either gifts of time, money, in kind. It's a giving community and a giving state. Sometimes people look at Las Vegas and they don't think of us as such, but once
right,
you peel back the layers and see the group who live here, they find that it is such an amazing city.
absolutely. And so, education here. I read your biography, and we live right next to Bishop Gorman, and you went to Gorman, correct?
Yes, went to Gorman. That was when the campus was on Maryland Parkway. I was
Okay.
on the Gorman board when we were working to move it from Maryland Parkway out to where it is now in Hualapai. And it's such a phenomenal campus community.
hmm Yeah, it's very impressive. Um, if it's okay, I know you're a woman of faith, and have were you raised, uh, eh, eh, uh, whatever you're Catholic, I believe, but were you raised that way by your parents? How did you come into your faith?
I was. I've been in Catholic school since I was in kindergarten. So kindergarten through eighth grade and then through Bishop Gorman,
hmm
not in college. And I am a woman of faith. And I believe, again, like we started, that if we are so blessed and so lucky to have our health and our happiness, it
Right.
is such a pleasure and an honor to be able to give. And that's part of my faith and an important part of my life.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that. I'm kind of like you. I went to Sunday school in the Baptist church since I was, yay young, and it does inform a lot of your worldview and your perceptions, and like you said, to give back. So I appreciate that. And you went to school at UNLV?
I did. I went to school at UNLV and then up to the University of Nevada, Reno for a period of
hmm
time. And then on a semester
Oh.
C through the University of Pittsburgh, which started in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was the campus afloat that went around the world, where you could look at what your classes were entailed and go into those different countries. And as a college student, really get acclimated with the various people in the various countries. And then it ended in San Francisco. So, what an eye-opening experience to do as a college student while I was young, because once then my three children came a bit later.
hmm
It's more difficult to take off that much time to travel. And it was a good experience at just the right time in my life.
Wow. I want to peel back that layer a little bit. You were uh, a communications major,
I was
marketing,
in
right?
my undergrad and graduate degree. And what's interesting is my thesis was on shadowing corporate CEOs to see how they communicated their message, which is so perfect now because, as you know, part of Moonridge Group is working with corporate leaders on how do you lead in and get
Right.
your corporate purpose and combine purpose with profit. So who knows when we are young and in college how those experiences will come back full circle in life years later. But and as you know from the Nevada Corporate Giving Council, we have about 80 members throughout the state who are involved in it and use corporate giving as a way to support the brand and to be able to engage in the community. So those college days were well used now.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, wow, it's amazing that your college thesis, right, was on that subject. I mean, one of the things about leadership, as you well know, especially when you get into the C-suite, is has to do with messaging, to get the
Yes.
right messaging, to get everybody on board to through your strategy, and that is amazingly, that's something that I found in my corporate experience and seeing other enterprises that's not always well done, you know.
Absolutely. And especially in today's times, it's so important for the message to get out. And there's so much noise in communities and states throughout the country. And for a corporation to be able to get their messaging out. I was just with an amazing couple this morning who have a company that's headquartered here that does
Mm,
business throughout the US. And we were talking about the importance of brand and having your brand exposed in a positive light, especially with young consumers. They want to do business with companies who are doing good, who feel like there's a purpose in addition to profit. So really important now and with lots of challenges in today's world.
yep, exactly. So on that, on was it a semester at sea
Yes,
or?
it was a semester at sea. Would recommend it for any young person before
Mhm.
they finish their college. It's so good as a young person to see the world. And as you can imagine, people in every country welcome the students in to, share traditions and to, you know, share experiences of that country.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a rare experience, especially for young folks, unless you have parents that travel and all this kind of
Right.
stuff to experience that. So, what was the gist of that? The purpose of that, was it to just to show different cultures, or was it something about communications, or what was kind of what was behind all that?
You know, what's interesting is that as we finish our college degree, some students, like my son, did a semester abroad, and you learn
Hmm.
so much when you are exposed to other cultures. And I felt so lucky to be able to do the semester at sea and be able to see different countries and cultures. And as a young person, it helps you get a better understanding of the world and understand challenges as well as successes that are occurring in other countries. And I believe that I was, it helped me in my career to understand global issues.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's still true. I haven't looked up the latest statistic, but I remember years ago, you probably heard that where maybe half or a little bit less than half of the people here in the US have a passport, right? So a lot of people don't travel.
Right. And what's interesting is I look at my life currently, we do a lot of work through Moonridge Group in global water causes. And
Hmm.
those days that I spent in South Africa and other places where I was able to see firsthand that not everybody has access consistently to clean water. And here, fast forwarding years later, it's helpful for me to understand globally, we're all connected. Water connects us all. So it makes our work with the One Drop Foundation even more meaningful to know that, gosh, when leaders like you, Mike, lean in, whether it's in water, mental health, education, it matters when we all do our part.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. And there's so many causes, and to marshal enough resources to help these folks and try to figure out who can get what, right? Especially there's so many needs. Um, When you were in college and you were in your those years and you were getting ready to graduate, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? I mean, what was the game plan at age 21, 22, whatever?
I always had a lot of joy in doing good, in giving back and volunteering. So when I
Okay.
was young, I did it for fun. We had opportunities through college to engage in giving, and at
Hmm.
Gorman, and it still is today, it was a requirement. Today, we have a lot of Gorman students, as well as from other high schools throughout the valley, of getting those volunteer hours in. And when it is mandated in high school and then carried on through college, it exposes you to the joy of giving. And oftentimes we get back more than we have given. And that was the case for me. And I think that I always knew that I wanted to have philanthropy as a part of my life. I didn't dream that it would be my business. And
Right.
so, how fun is it for us as adults to do the thing that we love and have that be what we do for a living? It's such a joy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rarity. I think there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that are in jobs because they're jobs
Right.
to pay the bills and put food on the table. But what a blessing to do what you, like you said, what you really love doing. It's not really work, right?
Right, right, absolutely. And Moonridge started shortly after Eric Hilton and Puna Mathur and I and many others started Three Square. We got it up and running, and over a 5-year period, fully launched it, grew it from one building to two buildings. And after 5 years, then the succession plan was that Brian Burton would come in and then take on the role as CEO. And that was when I saw the power of strategic philanthropy. That
Hmm.
the Hilton Foundation, the Lindsay Foundation, and Reynolds Foundation, when funders came together for impact, it could be so powerful and life-changing. So that was why I started Moonridge Group, to have funders see the power of connection and leaning into really address social challenges.
So, I want to get back to Three Square because we give that, what a wonderful organization. And
Thank you.
when I found out that, you were obviously an integral part of getting that up and running, I was like, wow,
Thank you.
so important. Um, when you left college, and what were the first couple of jobs you had that helped
Do you
inform you of a lot? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it was always on the business side right after college. And
Okay.
I would go into the corporate side and always knew that my heart was in philanthropy. And so, but we have a lot of young people that intern with us, and
Hmm.
and it's so important to test and try things, right? Until you find that one love. And so I did have some jobs in the corporate side and really enjoyed them. And always the area that I was attracted to within any corporation was to the community engagement, the corporate giving, the volunteerism. And and so you're right, we are so lucky if we find that thing that we're passionate about and can do that for our living. How lucky are we to if we can find that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I could see that theme, and you worked at Caesars for a while, and again, your bent was towards that
Yep.
philanthropy. And then tell us. So I had not heard about this. The whole Andre Agassi College. What was that all about? And I've read about, in preparation of this, kind of what the gist of it was. Why don't you tell folks how that came about and what it's for?
Sure. So I had, with an attorney friend in town, launched something called the I Have a Dream Foundation, where,
Hmm.
as our passion project, as volunteers, we adopted 55 children from a City of Las Vegas housing site and stayed with them from kindergarten through college. And in that process, I was visiting with Perry Rogers of the Andre Agassi Foundation, and he said, I see what you're doing with the I Have a Dream Foundation. Come join us. Andre is building a school. It's a charter school on the west side where there's great need. And so people come into our lives at times when it's meant to be. So
Hmm.
I went then to work for Andre and work with Perry Rogers, and we built the charter school that was then called Agassi Prep. And so from there, it really basically, Mike, was that there were about 55 to 75 dreamers in the I Have a Dream Foundation. The Agassi School then had about 1,000. So by the time Eric Hilton and I met and wanted to launch a food bank, it then helped hundreds of thousands of people. But it took those stepping stones of I Have a Dream, the Agassi Foundation, in order to have the confidence and the experience then to do something with Mr. Hilton and with Puna Mather to
Right.
launch the Three Square Food Bank. And you're right, I still have much joy in my heart over that important nonprofit. And Beth Martino is the current CEO, and she's doing such great work. And we stay in touch frequently, and so proud of her for all that she's doing.
Wow. Yeah, I had never heard about that. Just the lives have been impacted from that one entity alone, right?
Yes, it's such a vital organization in the community. Absolutely.
Yeah. And from there, I mean, I don't know from there exactly, but obviously this whole idea of three square, and I think it's important for people who listen, especially for folks. One of the big questions we get all the time is, well, how do you develop a strategy? How do you strategic mindset? So, what was the impetus for Three Square? How did that come about?
It was Mr. Hilton's dream. He didn't feel well one day and was taking
Mm.
a nap in the middle of the day, something he didn't do very often, and had a dream about feeding in food insecure people. And we then met at a meeting at Catholic Charities, and it was a round table of people where he shared his vision. Can we, should we, how do we do it? And like you and I started at the beginning of the conversation, in Las Vegas, there's that can-do spirit where when you get people that come together with strategy and the philanthropy, it can happen. And that can-do spirit is what propelled it from Mr. Hilton's dream and
Hmm.
vision to the viable organization today. And as you just mentioned, strategy is such an important part. So there was a 2-year feasibility study that occurred to see, is this community ready? Can we do it? Should we do it? And gosh, the information was that there were so many people that were struggling with food insecurity that yes, the time was right.
Wow. Yeah, and it's a lasting, obviously it's a lasting entity. Do you have any idea off the top of your head, like how many people around this valley do have food insecurity? Just a snapshot?
Do you know, last I heard there were about 350,000. So there
Wow.
are a lot who struggle with various forms of food insecurity. The great news, though, is that Three Square, with its dozens and dozens and maybe even hundreds of agency partners that distribute the food, an impact is being made, food is being received, and
Hmm.
so then when you combine that, whether it's give a man a fish or teach him how to fish, that's giving a man or woman a fish, the handout of the food. Then there are so many wraparound services that are occurring, like at
Hmm.
Catholic Charities with job training, workforce development, resume building, finding housing. When the combination of keeping people fed along with training them and getting them ready for success in life, that's where communities can really excel.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. What a legacy, right? And I guess you could have just rode off into the sunset then, but you decided not to, and you ended up with how did Moonridge Group come about? And tell the viewers exactly what does Moonridge Group do?
Do you know, I grew up with summers with my grandparents in Big Bear, California, and
Oh.
there's a small subsection called Moonridge. And it's where I learned the basics in life: treat others with respect, deliver with excellence, do well. If you say you're going to do something, do it and do it on time. So, all of those core values that we learn as a child, I learned in my summers with my grandparents in Big Bear and Moonridge. So, rather than call the company, Julie Murray and Associates or the Philanthropy Associates, I wanted to name it after Moonridge. And
Hmm.
we are a philanthropy advising firm. So we have gone in and done the strategic philanthropy for the Raiders Foundation, for various gaming companies, for various family foundations. And you and I know and agree on, when there's strategy and impact and it's measured and it's done well, it can make such a difference to bring that sort of professionalism to philanthropy. And that's what my team and I at Moonridge do. And then there's the foundation, which again is a donor advised fund, a grant making. So we've
Hmm.
got both the for-profit business and then the grant making foundation that are our primary two entities.
And then the Nevada Corporate Giving Council is an offshoot of that. Is that what happened?
It started first with Diana Bennett and Chris Inglestad McGeary
Hmm.
finished attending one of our philanthropy summits around 2012, and each of them called and said, "That was so great. Let's do something on a smaller scale." So we launched the Greater Good Council, which consists in Las Vegas and in Reno of individuals, family foundations. And then that is the individual side, and the Nevada corporate giving side is the corporate side.
S- Wow. So, yeah, it's been gratifying for Janice and me to be involved, with these groups and just to see the scope and the breadth and depth of the philanthropy here in Las Vegas. When you go back now in your life and you look at from pure leadership perspective, obviously, one of the core things you have to have in your job is the ability to speak in public. Were you always comfortable speaking in public, like in college, high school, or is this something that evolved?
Do you know, I really enjoyed public speaking. And then as a young adult, did take a public speaking class by Amy
Hmm.
Cube, because as leaders, it's so important for us to be able to, whether it's just all of a sudden you're called upon or a more formal speech, to be able to deliver a message. So I think that public speaking skills are so important for a lot of our young leaders that are out there building their career today. It's vital.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I came into it later in life. But yeah, it's important. But it's so amazing that when they say they get the studies of, okay, what is the one thing that scares you most than anything? That's public speaking, right? Isn't that funny?
Yes, 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 yes. So true. So true.
Yeah. Um, w- was in your career progression, was leadership something you sought, or was it something that was thrust upon you and you thought, I kind of like this. I like being a leader. I like being able to lead and influence and things like that. How did that
You know,
come about?
even at Bishop Gorman, I enjoyed leadership positions on student council or in
Hmm.
civic groups. So I've always felt a passion in my heart to lead and to help make a difference. And so as an adult, then it carried on. And I, you know, I was lucky to have mentors in my life who helped show me qualities of great leadership. People like Elaine Wynn, who sadly recently
Hmm.
passed. And my favorite mentor has been Diana Bennett, a businesswoman, a philanthropist, and a very good friend. So having mentors in my life and combined with the desire to lead and to help, I think has been a phenomenal combination of someone guiding me and that desire to do well.
Right. Yeah. You can never uh, overemphasize the importance of great mentors
Oh,
that
yes.
that play an integral role in your career and your lives, right?
It's so important for all of us. Then, if we are then at that phase in our careers where we have the ability to mentor, it's so important to do that because I think of the number of times I reached out to people when I was a young businesswoman and who said, yes, how can I help? So I try to be cognizant of that when Gorman will call and say, can you take some interns or UNLV so that we can help bring along the next generation of leaders? They've got a lot of challenges they're going to need to address. So I believe it's so important to serve as a mentor when needed. So such
Yeah.
an enjoyable thing.
Yeah. And you're one of the best. I know that for sure because I know you care about
I,
people.
thank you, Mike.
You have such a great heart. Um, it's interesting. I always ask this question, especially of entrepreneurs, because I had a different, I always had an enterprise around me, whether it was police department or the CIA or Microsoft, right? So there was this thing that provided me with my salary and benefits and et cetera. And I always admire people that are entrepreneurs. Um, you ever feel when you were building your businesses? I mean, I'm not talking about worry, but I mean, what's the mindset you need to have to go into something like this, to be an entrepreneur, right? Where you don't have a safety net.
Gosh, it was much more difficult than I imagined. So much more difficult. I was surprised because it doesn't sound difficult, launch a small business. And yet once you get in it and you have employees
Mm,
and contracts and different challenges, again, it sounds easy. I was surprised at how difficult it was and surprised how tenacity and persistence and optimism, how important it was because there are so many good days and so many bad days.
right.
And I, again, as you just alluded to, the importance of mentors, having someone in my life who helped mentor me and say, you will get through this. Just be, tenacious and persistence and keep a positive attitude and work hard. Those things when they all come together because
Hmm.
it is a difficult thing. So I so admire when I meet business owners and love asking them what the impetus was of how they started and what their challenges were. And they've shared the same. It's the human resources and keeping employees motivated and strategic and the teamwork. So it's an interesting career path, isn't it?
It certainly is. And especially when people look at Julie Murray and says, man, she's got it together, right? She's calm and cool and collected, got a great sense of humor. She's got it together. We're all human beings, right? So how do you, as a leader, and it's in different phases of your life, maybe this question has a different answer, but how do you keep yourself grounded? I mean, how do you take care of yourself with all the pressures and stresses that you have running businesses and being involved in as much as you're involved with?
Mike, I love this question. I didn't fully understand the importance of mental wellness until COVID. And
Hmm.
it was on April 18th, 2020, that we launched a youth mental health initiative, Hope Means Nevada. And through that, I've learned so much about mental wellness and making time for ourselves. And there's this friend of mine, Mike Howard, who taught me about box breathing. And that we can do to just make time for ourselves. Even when we're at our busiest, that's when I think we even need it the most, to take a moment to breathe, to connect, to make sure I'm exercising and staying connected socially. So, boy, isn't our mental wellness one of the most important things we can do for us to succeed?
It is indeed, yet it's also one of the things I think with a lot of leaders, type A, we have to be obviously in order to get to where we want to go. We may neglect that part,
Yeah.
and it hurts you at the end, I think, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. It is so true. I've shared this. There was a book that was written about Three Square, and in the building of Three Squares, I was all work. That was all. Not a lot of social time, mental wellness time. And I got breast cancer about halfway through.
Hmm.
And I knew it was my body's way of saying, you are neglecting me. And I just kept going and going. And it was a real wake up call. Luckily, years later, I'm cancer free, but
Thank
it was
God.
such a surprise that in the middle of building it, to see my body start to break down. And I believe it was because I was going all the time and didn't do those things you and I just talked about with our mental wellness and social connections. So I had to learn the hard way, Mike.
Right. No, I hear you, and thank God that you're through that.
Thank you.
And because as you well know, we both know it's not easy.
Yes.
Um, Along the way in your journey, you've had to build teams. What do you look for in leaders that are going to be working for you? What are some of the traits that you look for in people?
It's those things that go back to those values I shared that when I was a young girl in Big Bear at Moonridge, it's people that are going to deliver with excellence. There's no excuses. They deliver with excellence on time, and they have an attitude that's a positive can-do attitude, and that it's okay to make mistakes. So somebody that's willing to give it their all and know that there'll be mistakes along the way, but it's a safe space to
Hmm.
make mistakes and learn from them, because I still make mistakes and still am learning from it. But it's people that deliver and
Hmm.
are, and give it their all and have that tenacity. And I currently feel very lucky to have a team like that. And it's not easy to find. So once you find a leader like that, it's so helpful to have them come on board and add that energy to the team.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's 100%. It's always hard to find the core group of people.
Yeah.
And they all have their own idiosyncrasies, but that they're because we're all humans. But
Yes.
when you find the right team, the really switched on team, that just makes all the difference in the world, right?
And it can make work such a joy when you have people working in harmony instead of one pulling the weight and another one not. But gosh, Moonridge is 14 years old, and it took me
Mm.
several years to be able to figure out the formula of how to find and keep team members like that. It was not an easy road, but I think I've got a better formula now, Mike.
Yeah, I think you're doing okay. I think you're doing pretty
Thank
fine,
you.
you know. Um, so that just informed me about something you said. Uh, You're probably in a better position than a lot of people to look at this next gen, right?
Mhm.
Gen Z. And, back in my day, it was always like, hey, the millennials, and there was always this thing. I remember being at a conference here, a security conference, and you had some folks that were, well, they were older than I was, and I was probably in my 50s at that point, talking about the different so
Yes.
this is Gen X and this is
Yes.
baby boomers, and these are millennials, and they would have all these things there. Well, my business manager, Samantha, was a millennial, and she's great, right? She's my right hand. And I remember saying, when they had question and answer, I said, I got a millennial right here. Why don't you ask her about all those things up there rather than telling people what you think millennials are? So they have these concepts now about Gen Z. You must work with a fair amount of internships or whatever. What's your take on this new generation?
You know what's interesting is we have something called next gen philanthropists because
Okay.
with my generation, we give grants and we do collective impact and we do things a certain way. With the next generation, they want it to be social. They want to have it be together where they're out volunteering and give. And so this group called Next Gen Philanthropy was founded and launched by Jess Malasky, and he is the grandson of Erwin Malasky, who
Oh,
donated
okay.
donated the land that UNLV is on and was a phenomenal businessman and philanthropist. And so this very young man said, it's not your grandparents' giving. And he is doing philanthropy in such a creative way with the
Hmm.
Ellis sisters who are his age and others. And there's about 130 of them in the group, and they'll meet socially after work, never over a structured luncheon, always socially after work. And those young leaders are doing such good work and are doing giving on their own terms, which is so different than the structure of a different generation.
Interesting. Yeah, so I wanted to ask that question because you hear a lot of negatives about Gen Z, and I'm sure there are, just like any generation, you're going to have those people that want to get something for nothing. But I always think I hate broad brushing any group of
Yeah.
people, right?
Absolutely. So we talked about mental health. There's a group of high school students that are in the Hope Means Nevada Teen Committee, and they are really focusing on their mental wellness. So they're going to school, they're sharing about the pressures of being a young person in high school where there's so many challenges these days. And this group, which is ages 13 to 18, they are really focused on mental wellness along with all
Hmm.
the issues in life.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it gives us hope, right? It gives us
Yeah,
hope for the
that's a,
future.
it does, absolutely.
So, a busy executive like you, and I love asking this question because I learn from everybody, right? Productivity was always a big part of uh, my life, especially when I was at Microsoft, and trying to get our team as strategic as possible meant, dealing with the small things well, efficiently. You've got emails and texts and phone calls to return. You've got meetings to attend. Your calendar must look crazy, like most busy executives. How do you how do you plan for your day? I mean, how does Julie Murray look at the week, the day, and decide, okay, these are the priorities. This is how I'm going to tackle this. How do you do that?
You just described it. It's the priorities, right? So thank you for that, Mike. And I'm an early riser. I'm a early riser. Look forward to the day, love the day, and was so looking forward to this today. As I woke up, I thought I get to talk to Mike today, and it is absolutely what you just described, the priorities. Because you're right, the emails, the texts, the Zooms, so much of it. So again, you and I talked about priorities, strategy, and delivering with excellence on the things that matter the most in that priority. So I think don't you think it's helpful to be early risers?
Oh yeah, I mean, you read anything about, the most successful leaders are the ones that get up early to, whether it's to take care of yourself first so your mindset's ready for the day, or whether you're going to tackle some of those things that, later on you won't be able to because you're buried in meetings or whatever,
Yes.
right?
Yes, 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 absolutely. You're so true.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we impart those things also upon our direct reports or people that work for us too, because it makes their lives easier if they can be more strategic and streamlined too and productive.
We just started something that we modeled after some other companies in town where we're doing every other Friday off. So part
Oh,
of the
wow.
team can have the first Friday off, the other part of the team can have the second, and then we rotate it because I found that younger team members really enjoy the 3-day work weekend and
Hmm.
come back Monday fresher when they know that every other Friday they've got that day off. I'm trying to do things that help the younger team members feel excited to come to work. So I know that MGM Resorts gives their executives a sabbatical, which is really great. And colleges do that and would love to be able to move into that at some point. So anything I can do to keep employees fresh and happy is so helpful.
Yeah, I think that every other Friday, for these teams, I think that's awesome. It's really just that one day a lot of difference.
Yes.
Um, and Microsoft, and you should pursue that sabbatical. Microsoft had a sabbatical where you
Oh,
could do 10 weeks off, or you
really?
could take the money, the monetary equivalent, right?
Really? And did most people take the time off or the monetary equivalent?
Most people took the time off. They took 10 weeks. My boss actually did it, and he was like the chief accounting officer.
Wow.
And he was, a lot of people will just go visit family. Some people will do things that they think will enhance their work later on by delving into different things around the world or whatever. But yeah, it was very generous. It was 10 weeks. I took the money because we were in the middle of something that I know I couldn't get away for 10 weeks. But if I could move the time back,
Yeah.
I would probably go for the 10 weeks. Yeah.
Such a gift. That gift of time matters so much. I was talking to someone that's involved with one of the three medical schools, and they said that the new young physicians that are graduating, that's important to them, the
Mm.
time, so that they aren't so overloaded. And I think that the younger generation wants that. They want better work-life balance, whether they're up and coming physicians or business students or whomever. So again, is this phase of our career to be able to help the young people with that work-life balance, I think is very important.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Do you, I mean, as you look at the year ahead, I mean, do you routinely bake in a time off, a vacation, or a few days off during the summer or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that all of your viewers are finding that it's so important to just take that time to breathe, to enjoy life. And without it, we just can't come back fresh and ready to go. So I do a lot of little mini vacations spread out throughout the year so that I can get away. And we're really good at Moonridge about when one person's gone, the other person just automatically will pick up the coverage, whether it's someone on maternity leave or if they're away, we have that. I've got your back, go away, don't look at email. And that's so important.
I love that. I love that. I love that because there are so many people that go on vacation
Oh,
and yet their direct reports, their troops are getting emails from them all the time.
yeah.
It's like, stop it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're such a bad, it's a bad example because then they go on vacation, they feel they got to be connected and they don't have to be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier about, like we all make mistakes. God knows I still make plenty, even in retirement, which is hard to do, right? But can you think of a time where, call it a mistake, call it just a decision that didn't go the right way, that actually led to you becoming a better leader just because lessons learned?
Do you know, it goes back to what you and I spoke about a few minutes ago, is that I thought it was okay just to work nonstop when we were building Three Square and
Right.
just like I was invincible and that I could, when we were building Three Square, Poonam Mather, the founding board member, would be up early at 4 o'clock. And at that stage in my life, I was a late nighter, so I would work until so late. And now looking back, gosh, it wasn't the smartest thing to just work all the time. And I learned the hard way that that's how I learned about about the work-life balance because,
Right.
even when you're young and full, completely physically healthy, it will take a toll. So I'm happy the next generation is not learning the way I had to learn, which is the hard way, but it seems like they have a much better work-life balance because of that health issue that I had from working nonstop. It's so important now for both myself and my employees to strike that balance better than I did. That was a big mistake, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, I think we've probably all been down that road at least once in our
Yeah. Yes.
careers, right? We're of a generation that was kind of the norm.
It was the norm, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the smartest thing, but it was the norm, right?
It was the norm.
So where you sit now, what do you contemplate for the future? And what are the things that you're thinking about that aspirationally, things that you'd like to do either with Moonridge or maybe even another entity that you may create?
Do you know, I love my nonprofit board work because it allows me to stay active in the nonprofit sector. And then something I transitioned to about 5 to 6 years ago is corporate boards. I serve
Hmm.
on corporate board, and I find that it gives me a really different challenge from a brainstorming, from a thinking, from a strategy standpoint to serve on a corporate board. So I've been enjoying it. I serve on one and am active in the National Association of Corporate Directors. So it's really great brain health to think of new things, to have new challenges. So that's been something new in my life just recently.
Yeah, I see. Now I love that. I've never served on a corporate board. That'd be something for me aspirationally. That'd be kind of cool. But I found just serving on different boards in my career actually helped up my own leadership game
Yes.
at Microsoft. So can you talk a little bit about that? When you started getting involved in boards, what does that lend to a leader?
Isn't it interesting? Because it surely makes me think on my toes that I had a mentor and still have one. It's Dr. Jim Nave. He's the lead director for Station Casinos. And he gave me the best advice when I first started joining corporate boards, which was there's going to be a mountain of materials to read. And he shared, don't ever go into a meeting without having read all your materials because it's so important to be able to think quickly, to be strategic, to provide that expert advice. And I find that that was the guidance on corporate boards, but it surely transitions to the nonprofit boards that we serve on because on my Catholic Charities board,
Hmm.
there are lots and lots of documents that always need to be read. And sometimes it's easy to think, oh, maybe I'll just skim them. But thanks to my board mentor saying, always read, always show up, ready physically, mentally prepared to contribute. Great advice. And I've
Yeah.
learned a lot from it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. For me, there was always kind of for a long time, there was this imposter syndrome kind of thing going, right? Because I'm Microsoft CSO, I've got my world, right? And then you get involved with 15 other chief security officers of major corporations, heavy hitters. It's like,
Yes.
do I belong here, right?
And we all go through that. I've talked to so many young people, especially saying, why am I in this position? I don't deserve it. And I love the humility that comes from leaders like that, that might experience imposter syndrome, that think, why am I being honored or why do I have this role? When indeed it is absolute right time for that. But sometimes we do get in positions and think, what am I doing here? And and it works. It works because, for the most part, people do want to do well and they do deliver. So it's an interesting balance.
Yeah, it is. It is. I take it, well, I'm just assuming. Are you a reader? You like to read?
Oh, love to read. Yes, I loved it. My son and I love sharing books back and forth. I have three children, and two of them are avid readers, and it's so much fun to share books and share themes.
Yeah. Does your, and I love this because I believe leaders are readers, right? And does your reading, is it all business or just it kind of run the gamut, fiction, nonfiction, what have you?
It is the gamut. I love both books, books that I can learn from that are about strategy or about leadership, as well as I think it's good for our brain to also have, books that are just pure, pure fact fiction to be able to, just to be able to enjoy a story that's well twined and intertwined.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Do you tend to try to do your book reading when you're on vacation, or do you find time during your work week to try to just take an
Yeah,
hour or half an
I,
hour, 15 minutes or
Yep, I love to have that be at the end of the day. That's
Hmm.
my reward for getting myself to wrap up my day so I can, just keep reading a bit. Because you're right, no matter what age, reading is so important and so much fun to learn, always to be learning. So, and I see that a lot in younger people that reading is something that I've noticed that a lot of young people are doing. So I think it's always something that's good for us at any age.
Right. Yeah, feeding that mind.
Yes.
And obviously, with your faith, you're feeding the spirit, and you exercise, correct?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Such a mandatory part of our life. Going back to what my mentor said, showing up physically, showing up mentally fit, mentally and physically fit, ready. It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to, especially the older you get, you got to pay
Yes.
more attention to it,
So true. That is so true. Absolutely.
Yeah. If so gonna wrap this up. I mean, it's fascinating. I love talking to you about your career, just other aspects, just like the reading part. I usually don't ask about reading, but I just thought just I was compelled, and I think it's important for upcoming leaders or even leaders right now, just take time to do that.
Absolutely.
When you look back at your life, and obviously you've got a lot of runway ahead of you in terms of your work and your life, but would is there uh, one or two bits of advice you would give to a younger Julie Murray starting out in this world of business and philanthropy?
Oh my gosh. So again, what I learned from my mentor, would love it if just even one person was able to learn from it. It's the importance of always delivering with excellence because our
Mm,
reputation follows us for years. And so if from an early age, if someone's in high school or college and they deliver with excellence and they get a reputation for that and it carries them through their career, it will help because surely along the way we're going to misstep. And I think that we're able to make mistakes if our consistent reputation is this person delivers with excellence. You can have a misstep, pick yourself up, carry on because 99% of the time you deliver. It's just the reputation stays with all of us, doesn't it?
yep.
And so important that right from college to be able to deliver with excellence.
Yeah. Amen to that. That's great advice. And for those of you for those of you coming up in the enterprise world or the philanthropy world or nonprofits, that's great advice. Julie, want to thank you so
Well,
much. You have been very open and transparent, and I appreciate that. That's what makes one of the things that makes you a great leader. And I really want to thank you for sharing your insights, which I think are very helpful to me personally and my continued growth as a leader, as well as other people that are going to be listening to this.
Mike, you are my hero. So it was such a pleasure to spend time with you today. Love your podcasts and really appreciated the opportunity
Thank you.
to
Oop,
spend time with
thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. Well, that's all we have for this edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. And thank you again, Julie, for being a part of this podcast. Remember to subscribe and like this channel and share it with your friends, family, and even if I always say, even if you have enemies, enemies need to learn about
you.
leadership too. So until next time, this is Mike Howard signing off, and we'll be back at you real soon with another edition. All right.